Tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Nammo saranto suchedoye olahudi sanmiao sanputosye. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa. 百千万劫难遭遇，我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。The unsurpassed, deep, profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in hundreds of thousands of millions of eons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I bow to fathom the thus come one's true and actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture tonight. This is Saturday night, the 10th of August, and we're here in Berkeley, California. I'm going to switch microphones. Welcome to those of you who are joining us online from wherever you might be on Dharma Realm Live. We have our own YouTube stream right now, Dharma Realm Live. And welcome to those of you who have come from as far away as Australia to come be with us tonight. My goodness, you made it in one piece. Jet lag still to come, but you're here. That's great. Some of you came from as far away as Portland, Oregon, imagine, against all common sense, but here he is again. So how nice that you can say hello, because last time this group was together, it was right there in Gold Coast. So did you see who showed up? Yeah, good. And I'd like everybody to please turn your heads and look up at our balcony facing where the dragon lights, the colored lights off the dragon stained glass window. And over here we have Guan Yin's halo over there on the wall. Right above Roberto. Draw no conclusions about that halo over Roberto's head. That's not related. But this is August, and it's soon to be the last of the evening lecture colored shadows that are always a wonderful part of summer evening lectures, which is the sun is just setting over the Golden Gate to the west, and as it does, the slanting light comes in and puts our stained glass window shadows into the Buddha Hall. Right about this time last month, the shadows are very deep and long, and they went up to 8 o'clock, and if there was incense here from evening ceremony, the incense clouds caught the reflections, and we had multicolored floating clouds in the Buddha Hall. Very wonderful. All right, so here we are, and I have been away for the last 2 Saturdays because of a trip to North Carolina, and Master Jin Fan lectured in my stead, and he will be here again next week, because I have 1 more week away before I settle in for the autumn. But Master Jin Fan has been very kind and gives him a chance to get used to lecturing to Western audiences. At the same time, it gives his young translator a chance to come down and exercise, Michael. So, and are you, Homero, all the way from San Francisco? You moved to Oakland, so like that doesn't count. You know, that's all right. You're welcome. Oakland is good. So no, sincerity is what counts. And some of our group just came back from Yellowstone National Park with all kinds of stories about herds of buffalo coming by their RV, and lots of excitement. So we are on page 32 and 33, and please, those of you who have not come from some exotic place, Switzerland, we have someone just back from Switzerland, please know that congratulations, you've had a quiet summer, and that is priceless. If every morning you've woken in the same bed that you've been living in, that's a real blessing all by itself. Travel is a mixed bag for sure. Let us begin first by invoking the Avatamsaka Sutra, which is found here on the cover of your text. We're going to chant the names of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Avatamsaka Assembly and bring their presence here among us. Namo Dafang Guangpo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Po Pu Sana Dafang Guangpo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Po Pu Sana Dafang Guangpo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Po Pu Sana Dafang Guangpo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Po Pu Sana Mo Dafang Guangpo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Po Pu Sana Mo Dafang Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Po Pu Sana. Okay, we're on the third stanza, the limitless heavenly maidens, Ru Shi Wu Liang Zhu Tian Nu. We always begin by reading the Chinese first, because we are, that's where we come from, where this tradition comes from, and where this sutra was home, was in China for all those hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and now because of Master Hua's vows, it's come to the West. So we like to acknowledge that and read the Chinese first. Okay, and if you can't read the characters, look at the romanization, the ABCs with the tone marks there, and follow along. Here we go. I'll give you a line and you give it back. Ru Shi Wu Liang Zhu Tian Nu Fa ci yan si cheng zan yi Yi切恭敬喜充满瞻仰如来默然住. Okay, can we read the English in unison together? Here we go. Ready? When the limitless heavenly maidens had uttered these sounds and words of praise in that way, they were all filled with happiness. They gazed in veneration at the thus come one and then fell silent. Okay. Shi Jagadipang, huh? Yes? Master Jin Fan. Okay, great. Okay. We are about to begin the fifth ground. We're not quite halfway through with the 10 grounds, which is an accomplishment all by itself. We've been lecturing on this chapter of the sutra for a year plus, and we've come almost halfway. This is instructions to a bodhisattva, how to become the most unselfish person in the world. That's what a bodhisattva is, someone who lives entirely for and with others. Every move on the part of the bodhisattva is done with the thought to be of service, to benefit people. And it's because this person has already been through this me in the middle. He's no longer living with that as the primary motive, to satisfy my pleasures, my desires, my wishes, my happiness. He's taken every one of those my and flipped it over to our desires, our happiness, our interests, and can actually do something about it. And This chapter tells us how to do that, how to become a bodhisattva. What does a bodhisattva do? How do they live? How do they think? So that's what this is about. And some people might say, gee, that's pretty noble, but you ever met anybody like that? Do these people actually walk? And the answer is, how about your mom? That's a really handy referent. Your mom took care of, my mom took care of me when it was of no benefit to her at all, right? Just like when I cried, when I had a need, it was, here it is. You know, back when I was completely unable to take care of myself. She was there, and not a thought. Just that, she connected my body with her body, my health with her health, my well-being with her well-being. And the bodhisattva does that not just for their kids, right, but for everyone. The bodhisattva identifies all beings as identical. Lots of empty seats in the front row here, and so how interesting to be able to do that with people who you might not like, people you might have different political views, people with whom you might have been told as a kid growing up that they were the enemy or they were bad. And the bodhisattva says, yeah, they're a living being. They're not a Buddha yet. I completely want them to be peaceful and happy, just like my own kids, like my own family. Believe it or not, growing up in Toledo, Ohio, which is a medium-sized Midwestern town, as a kid, I was part of a Methodist community. Methodists are a Protestant Christian sect, supposed to be liberal, supposed to be enlightened and interested in the social gospel. And the word came around, believe it or not, in my Midwestern, Middle American community, that Catholic kids were different than we were, and probably better if I didn't go into their house. You know why? Because, you know, they had too many babies. Too many babies. Their families are too big, and they never, like, you know, no birth control. So it's like better to stay out of their houses. And I told my mom about that, bless her heart. She'll be embarrassed if I say it. And she said, I never said those things. I didn't, did I? Did you hear that from me? You know? And I honestly can't remember whether I did or not. My mom was very open-minded, is still to this day very open-minded. But I remember getting that message. Maybe not from Mom, but it was fairly well known that, you know, and we had a Catholic family around the corner, the Browns, and we played football. Mike Brown and I were best buddies playing football, but I kind of knew it was probably better not to go in his house. You know, what's that called? That's called religious prejudice, right? That's called racist. That's called ethnic conflict. The seeds of war are right in that thought, you know. Now, what did they say about the Protestants? They said, just totally uptight. You can't trust them because they don't have hearts. You know, that's what the Catholics said about us. And yeah, pretty much that's true. You know, there's lots of, if you write people off for being different, and everybody has somebody who they can write off, right? So it's usually the last person in the gate. So here's when my forefathers came to Canada, they settled in Quebec. And Quebec, as people know, c'est le Canadien français, la belle province de Québec, right? 96% French speaking. And Irish immigrants don't speak no French, you know. So we got discriminated against. My poor dad says he used to run from the French gangs every day after school. And so when I decided I wanted to become Canadien, because coming from Toledo was so boring, you know, I wanted to be a little more exotic, a little more interesting. So I said, hey, Dad, can I learn French from you? And he said, no. Did he speak French? Perfectly. But he associated it with being discriminated against. So my dad would never speak French to me, even though I was trying to learn French in school. And for him, it was only survival language. It was not something that you took pride in. So, I think, gee, these people who discriminate, the Sunnis are at the throats of the Shias, and the Northern Irish hate the Southern Irish, and nope. In Toledo, Ohio, we had our full share of racism and views about humans, neighbors, being different and somehow not as good, right? So how much the more so when you get to things like four-legged beings, right? Is that a living being who has a Buddha nature? No, that's called lunch. So I can kill that one. But that one over there, that's called Fluffy. That's Fido. That's my dog and my kitty. That's not lunch. Oh, okay, they're different. They're different. So we make all these views. We cut it so fine. And don't start about what the white people did to the red people in this country. That's a chapter of our American history that is still undercover, under wraps, and not acknowledged. And it is a trail of tears. So, you all heard of the Trail of Tears? Which was when the red people were beaten and hounded, marched across the country to the reservation in Oklahoma, places like that. So, I was going to save this story for later. I think I will. I'll save that story. Remind me about the Trail of Tears stories. Okay, later on. I'll tell that one later. So, Bodhisattvas say, living being? Right. Future Buddha? Right. Suffering and birth and death? Right. Gotcha. That's all this checklist that he wants to know. Suffering now, future Buddha, my job is to take you across. Find a way to help you get through the day, get through the night. So, that's what this sutra is about. What do we start with tonight? We're coming to the end of the introduction. The Buddha has found a spokesperson for the fifth ground, and it's the same one who lectured on grounds 1, 2, 3, 4. His name is Vajra Treasury, Treasury of Vajra. Bodhisattva who's like a storehouse of diamonds. Treasury of Vajra. He's the speaker. So this chapter does not come out of the Buddha's mouth. That's interesting. People don't think that here's a Buddha sutra that the Buddha didn't speak. The Bodhisattvas spoke it. In some cases, Devas speak it. Gods speak it. So this is Vajra Treasury who speaks about this chapter. And he still has to be invited. Now, who invites him? Another Bodhisattva invites him. His name is Moon of Liberation. It's a great name. Moon of Liberation. You think of the big full moon rising, and when that moon rises, there's light in the sky. You look over there, it's just a flat line, or in this case, it's the hills, because we have hills to the east, the Berkeley Hills. But you look over there, and suddenly there's this big, round, white, yellow, glowing thing rising, and you think, sets you free. This sets me free. Moon of Liberation. So, those are the speakers. Moon of Liberation invites Vajra Treasury. He speaks it. He says, okay, here's the fifth ground. Before this begins, we had a dramatic, exciting introduction, kind of a preamble to the speaking of the chapter, which was songs, music put out by goddesses. The sutra talks about goddesses. What's a goddess like? Here they're called Tiennu, Deva women, females from the heavens, celestial maidens. Deva is the word for God, but when we say God, it's complicated in this country because there's only one. It's capital G. There's no two. You don't go gods, right? Gods, you go, oh, wait a minute. Does the Bible talk about that? Yeah. You shall have no God but me, says the Ten Commandments. So that's why we want to be careful about this. If we say Deva, we save a lot of trouble. We don't get arguments, because what's a Deva? That's not a word we know. So fine, all right. Devas are gods, and there's a lot of them. And here, there are female gods, that is to say, goddesses. Over where I teach at the Graduate Theological, every now and then somebody will stir the pot, kind of cause a little bit of trouble, where they go, we thank God for all of her blessings. She is kind to us. And everybody goes, you mean God's a female? You know, have you seen the face of God? God gives great, God is creative. Men, are you creative? No. The women bring forth life, right? So maybe she's a female. Gaia is her name. Okay, troublemakers, right? So here are the goddesses. God's a female, and she's singing. And she just did that last week. She talked about making offerings to the Buddha so you can end suffering. So, limitless number of goddesses playing incredible music. They uttered sounds and words of praise, and they were filled with happiness. They gazed up at the Buddha, the thus come one, that's the Buddha, in veneration, and they were silent. Which is to say, let's hear it. Now's the time. All right. So I want to bring this to life. Think about what music played by a goddess would be like. Think about a goddess. Start there. What would she be like? Well, something like that. She flies. We know that. Here we have goddesses or gods, hard to tell, playing music. That one has a harp. This one is offering flowers and clouds, ribbons. So, okay, think of, here we have musical engineers among us, we have DJs among us, and they live in a world of music. They have beats, they have tunes, and they can create it and pick any phrase, pick any tune, pick any beat, and say, this is probably how gods sound. What would it be like? You go, what would heavenly music sound like? Is it a 4/4? Is it a 3/4? Is it a, double time? What is it like down and dirty? Probably not. Probably goes up. What is God's music like? Imagine, right? Think. The sutra has God's music in it. What does God's music sound like? My guess is, I'm just guessing, that we don't so much hear God's music with our ears, we probably hear it with our skin. Probably it's as much a feeling as anything else. We're so used to thinking about ears when it comes to music. So how do you hear? You do this. How do you know? Well, cover them. What happens? Well, it changes things. If you cover your ears, you don't hear as well, right? So clearly, ears and sound have a lot to do. But they are not the only organ by which we get music. Because music, let's think about, now I'm up on this because last week I taught a class in North Carolina, and the class was about music and meditation, the spiritual aspects of music. And we had 15 people sign up and 19 people attended because the class got popular. I co-taught it with a friend named Steve Boffman. And Steve is a philosophy student and very much, he's a wonderful musician, but he's interested in the spiritual sides of things. And so the conversation went really deep. And we started with vibration. So music is vibration divided into time. And what is the basic beat? Anybody? What is the basic beat? Alan is pointing to his heart. That's it. It's bump, 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 bump. What was the first one we heard? Mom's heartbeat, right? When we first came into our ears, we were living in a very warm, close place that felt like home because it went bump, bump. And every time it did that, probably blood washed in, and, and we got this feeling of well-being and belonging in Mother's stomach as she, in her womb, as her heart was beating. Then ours took over. Pretty soon we had bump, 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 bump. First syncopation was probably our heartbeat after Mom's heartbeat. So the next rhythm is right, and that brings in the outside for the first time, because the heartbeat is all closed circuit. It's our own blood going around through the veins and the vessels, but the pump is there. As soon as we breathe, we're integrating that with the outside world, with the environment. So nature comes in. The whole world comes in with our breath, and it's very much in, out. Our lungs is the first place that we identify the limits to our skin and something else. So probably breathing is the way that we first kind of get this sense of I'm separate from the world. I'm broken from the world. And I had this theory, and we're going to get back to the sutra. I'm not going to riff here forever, but give me a second. We came to this place in our class as we talked with these musicians. We had professional musicians, solo concert performers in the class. Why were they taking a class on meditation for musicians? Because one of them is troubled by hyper-perfectionism. Can't play a wrong note. Plays a wrong note, gets on his case. And he plays Bach, right? So he's always going, and one wrong note, and he's like all over, So, and others, another one said, life is good, practice is good, teacher of music, everything is fine, composer. Go on stage, pick up the instrument, hands do this, uncontrollably. No thought before it happens, no method to control it, but reaches for the instrument, starts, so these are people who live by music, and yet they're aware that there is an entire invisible part to this experience called performance and making music. So what is the basic? What is the basic? How would we hear the music played by goddesses? I'm suggesting that we hear it as much by invisible vibrations as we do by notes or rhythm. Right? Because the fundamental moment of music begins something like this. We identify that as the same pitch, only a different octave. One is low, one is high. And as long as that one is going like that, there's a vibration going out. And we identify it, our ears are so good we can go, oh, that's out of tune, or that's too high for my voice, or that didn't last very long, that was really brief, or wow, that's resonating and vibrating and vibrating. All these different things we do as we hear air vibrating. All right, here's the theory that I wanted to share with you. When we think about our lungs, they are the organ in the body. We've got them. We came with them. You have a perfectly working set or you wouldn't be here tonight. It's the means by which we bring outside in, except when we eat. Some people say that our tongue and eating is the number one way we interact with the environment every day. Food. Well, I disagree. I think our lungs, because we breathe 24 hours, we eat several times. So the tongue is definitely a way that we interact with the environment. We incorporate nature through our tongue, through our body. But the air that comes in the lungs is shared everywhere on the planet. We breathe air that our ancestors breathed. Confucius is breathe the air that is in our lungs now. There are carbon particles that are part of the stars that then in turn come and make up part of our bones. No different. We are literally stardust. Chemically, there's no difference between carbon atoms, stretches of the universe, and functions of our brain. All right, so what does that mean? I gave the students this idea. I said, perhaps, some people will disagree, perhaps one of the reasons to make music is because instinctively we identify that we share the air. When I can make a vibration, ah, and send it out through the air, you hear it through this magical connection of, they say, inner ear, drum, bones vibrating, electrical impulse into the brain. I touch you with the vibrations, and I don't feel so broken as I do when I'm not making sound. Why? When I breathe, suddenly there's an outside and an inside. There's me and the rest. I realize, inhale, exhale. When it comes in, it's like I'm broken. I stop here. I stop with my skin. When I can go, ah, through that shared medium of the air, I'm bigger. It's a way to reconnect with the love that we are seeking, having come out of Mother's womb, at which point we were separated from the source of life. So could it be that one of the motives for making music is an attempt to heal the brokenness that unconsciously or consciously we are aware that we hold? Because why, you all look outside of me, right? And here I am in here, nobody knows what I'm thinking, nobody knows what I'm feeling, because I stop with my skin. So, let's make a sound through the medium of the air that comes in and out that we share, and suddenly my body is bigger. Because why, you're hearing what I'm saying. Could that be one of the reasons why we do music at all? Certainly we talk to do that, to somehow heal the split, to make our reconnect with people. So, if that, let's say there's something there, something worth exploring, what would Deva's music sound like? My guess is it's very healing. The Deva music probably has a vibration tone or a rate that makes us feel better in our skin than we've ever felt before. Now, humans have a very limited audio range, right? The common example is dogs hear better than we do, right? Dogs can hear higher vibrations than we can. And whales, elephants, did you hear about the elephants, how they listen with their feet? Elephants have incredibly sensitive feet, and they are communicating to each other on the ground, through the ground. We don't hear it until some clever, probably UC Berkeley paleontologist went out with his microphone and stuck it in the ground and heard these sounds the elephants were making, because they were too deep for us to hear. And the elephants' feet are so delicate. They tested elephants' feet, and they can put them down with incredible skill, probably to avoid stepping on their own children, right? Because they're so big and their kids are so small. But they listen through their feet, and they send messages through that way. So, anyway, humans, relatively speaking, have a limited range, but Devas probably have that all figured out, and they communicate in a way that helps you feel more alive than ever. Likewise, when you get to the heavens above the third desire realm heaven, there's no more light because they're above the sun and moon. Devas communicate through lights they send from their bodies. What would music be like in a realm where all communication is done with light? Okay, Mr. DJ, can you imagine? Let's do a Deva light show, right? And all the song, all the music entirely is a quality of light. And you're hearing music like, and it comes from their bodies. There's no sun, there's no moon, because that's one level of the heavens below. From there on, the Devas are radiant. They shed light with their own bodies. Okay, I'm going to play Brahms' concerto. I'm going to do Handel's Messiah. Here we go. You ready? Good music, huh? How do you like it? No, you're flat. Oh, there we go. Who knows? So, interesting. Imagine, we're reading, the limitless heavenly maidens uttered these sounds of words and praise. What was that like? Probably there was light, there was sounds that just made your body feel like what? You weren't alone anymore. You didn't feel broken. You were part of all the bigger family. Chinese say, 得其所在, 得其所在. You found your way home at last. In my skin, I'm home. Don't need anything else. Imagine what that would be like. Don't need anything else. Got enough right inside my skin. Nice sounds, man. Cool music, dude. So, yeah, Deva music, how wonderful. Okay, one more comment. There are musicians, composers, who have heard music coming from planets. The music of the spheres, Kepler, one of our earliest physicists, anybody knows history of science in the West, measured the sounds that Mercury put out, the sounds that Venus put out, the sounds that Mars put out, the sounds that Jupiter, Saturn. They only went to Saturn back then. Now we have Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, although Pluto got demoted. But at the time, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the Earth is number 3. And the Sun and the Moon all had music. And Gustav Holst, H-O-L-Z, was a German composer who had a whole suite for Mars, and it's very martial. That's the Martian sound. And the Venus was all, all female and beautiful and harmonic, and the Mars is warlike. But it's quite wonderful music. So composers have, over the centuries in the West, put the planets to music, assigned them frequencies and melodies, and how is that possible? Well, if you live beyond electric lights, like wilderness in Oregon, for example, where we were just not long ago, when you're out beyond electric lights, the biggest thing going on, the planets and the stars and the moon. But if the moon is it's a new moon, first of the month, and it is really close to the sun, so the sun sets and the moon's gone, you have a dark sky. Wow. If you're noticing, if you're quiet and still, you see these planets. How do you know they're planets? They don't blink. Right? Why do stars twinkle? Because they're so far away. Stuff is passing in between the Earth and their light, which began 600 billion years ago before it got to us. But the ones that go steady, those are the planets. And if you pay attention, you can easily see how somebody might go, oh, I know it's talking to me, it's singing to me. I hear music from Mars, music from Venus. So, we have, now we've cut all that off, because here in downtown Berkeley, it's really hard to see the stars. We're in the middle of so much light pollution. All right, so those maidens were making that music. praising the Buddha. And now they're quiet. Okay, next verse. 世事大事解脱乐，父亲无畏金刚藏，第五地中主横相，唯愿佛子为宣说。At that time, the great being, Moon of Liberation, again requested, Fearless treasury of Vajra, we wish that you, disciple of the Buddha, would proclaim all the hallmarks of practice upon the fifth ground. There's the invitation. That's called Qingfa, right? He's requested Dharma. Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion. I don't think it's probably not that tune. That tune is kind of da-da-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, da-da-da-da-da. That's not a very imaginative tune. Da-da-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, da-da-da-da-dum, da-dum, da-dum, dum, 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 dum. It's two notes. So we can improve on that. We're working on it. We need some composer to say, Dharma Master, I have a new Dharma request tune. Let me sing it for you. And I will go, grab my tape recorder. Please, please give us a new one. So, but this was a Qingfa, and it's really nice, I might add, to have a non-male do the Dharma request tonight. You all noticed that Suzanne bravely got up there and requested very nicely. Now, no slight to Alan. Alan is our faithful, tireless Dharma requester, and Tam when Alan is away working. But every now and then it's nice to have somebody else step up there and go, will the Sangha with great virtue, and request the Dharma. So it was done very nicely. So hint, hint, women's side, we want some more Dharma requests coming from the women's side. Somehow at CTDB, the men just do it, you know, and one of these days I'm going to cause a lot of trouble up there and go, stop, sit down, you request Dharma. Okay, 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 why not? Yeah, why not? It's just you haven't done it. You know, it's like, well, the men always do it. Yeah, sit down, you. You know, we'll see how. They might say, no way, they request Dharma. Yeah. We'll see. Maybe I'll plant somebody on the woman's side so they'll get up. So, Moon of Liberation, his full moon rose, and he said, Treasury of Vajra, time has come for the fifth ground. Please explain. And this is the fifth time they've done that. And people who have been here for this lecture series know that the first time this happened, Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva said, no, my lips are sealed. I'm not going to explain. He said, they're not going to get it. They won't understand it. It's too high, too lofty. They're too unselfish. And finally it took the Buddha to say, it's okay. It's okay. Time has come. Please. And you don't say no to the Buddha that much. So Vajra Treasury said, all right. I don't think they'll get it, but I'll explain anyhow. So we've now come through 4 grounds. Now's the 5th. Okay. Without any other ado, shall we launch into the 5th ground? Here we go. I'm on the bottom of page 32. 尔时金刚藏菩萨告解脱乐菩萨言：佛子菩萨摩诃萨第4地所行道。善圆满已. Okay, English. At that time, Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva addressed Moon of Liberation Bodhisattva and said, disciple of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, who is skillfully made perfect, the way walked on the 4th ground, and who wishes to enter the 5th ground. Okay, we need to follow up on the Chinese here. 欲入第5难生地，当以10种平等清净心去入，何等为实? Back here. The Bodhisattva Mahasattva, who is skillfully made perfect, the way walked on the 4th ground, and who wishes to enter the 5th ground of difficult conquest, should use 10 kinds of mind sets of equality and purity to approach and to enter that ground. Okay. This is pretty straightforward. There's not much to explain that people don't get right on the face of it. One thing to point out is the translation. That we're the translation is definitely a work in progress. We're redoing it now because it was done early in the 80s, and we've learned more Dharma, learned more Chinese. And we're doing better English than we did back then. So it's the edited edition, second edition, and I fearlessly predict that there will be another group later who will redo what we do and improve it, make it better. Translation is a skill, it's an art, it's a gongfu, and equally important, it's collaborative. Translation is done by teams. It has to be done that way because one person's wisdom, unless, now, if we have a sage or somebody wakes up and is fully enlightened, then certainly they don't even have to look at the book. They can bring it out of their nature because that's where it comes from. But until then, we need to do it together. That was a great discovery of our translation assembly, was that you can, in fact, translate with groups, and it's better than if you try to do it yourself. Some people say, oh, translation with a committee? No way. No one will ever agree. You'll never get anywhere. But in fact, the experience of translation has been exactly the opposite. That an idea comes up, and we'll look at it, somebody will propose something, and what do you all think? And then, what was the original Sanskrit? Check the Sanskrit. What does Shifu say about it? Shifu check. What did Master Chengguan and the Tang Dynasty say about it? Check that. And then, well, that's all good, we understand it, but that's not the way to say it. That's not what English speakers actually say. That's some kind of funny, like, formal, stiff language. So, what do we say in English? There's the phrase. And after 5-10 minutes of back and forth, it's like, that's it. And we all go, bingo. And that's it. And somebody says, but wait a minute, that's not exactly what the Chinese says. And we go, that's right. Why would the English be exactly what the Chinese says? Should the English translation be exactly what the Chinese says? No, it should be what it means in English. I can't believe that English doesn't have a phrase to match what the Chinese says. So we have to understand the Chinese and then translate it. And a lot of the problems with the first edition was because they understood what it said, looking at all the commentaries, but it was still said in a semi-English Chinese grammar called Chinglish. A lot of the translations are done in Chinglish, and that's good. That was the first attempt, and now we're coming through to do it again to put it into actual English. A little more confident that we've had 20, 30 more years of looking at it, of working with it. So translation is really exciting. It's like archaeology. You're digging up something ancient, brushing it off, and saying, what is it? What is it? And you go, oh, look. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. Look, wow. That's what we've been looking at all this time. We didn't have the dust off it yet. Sometimes we'll come into a phrase and people will say, what is that? What do we do? And somebody will say, I think it's, for example, like a pennant or a banner. There's lots of banners in the sutra. And we don't have any banners here in the Berkeley Buddha Hall. If you go to CTDB, there are banners hanging, there are banners horizontal, there are spiral banners, they're like these banners that are lamp-shaped, kind of like our lights here in the Buddha Hall. And some of them have text on them, Namo Ban Shi Shi Jia Mo Ni Fo, Namo Da Bei Guan Shi Yin Pu Sa. Chinese characters running down. And in the Avatamsaka, there are like 4 kinds of banners. They're Chuang, Fan, San, Gai. 4 different things. And what do we have? We have umbrellas. You go, oh, umbrella. Is that what it is? That's the San. But what about the Chuang and the Fan? You know, oh, we don't know. So we cracked open Google and went to Wikipedia, typed in the Chuang Fan, put up Ah, there it was. And we were able to get exactly the word for pennant. What did you have growing up? I had, on the wall of my bedroom growing up, a triangular thing made of green felt that said Cleveland Indians, right? Over here was Detroit Tigers, a pennant, right? I did have flags growing up. It was a Detroit Tigers pennant. I had it on my wall. And my father gave me one that said Ohio State Buckeyes and said, pay attention to this. This is the one you want. Michigan would not let it in the house, right? The Michigan Blue Devils? No. What were the Michigan? What was their? Anybody know? My dad would say, "Dirty Michigan." He would always stand up at halftime in the Ohio Michigan. "Dirty Michigan." He thought that was really getting away with something, you know. He did it in the middle of the Ohio team supporters, so he wouldn't, you know. The Ohio State Buckeyes and the Michigan Blue Devils. Blue something. The what? The blue, because the Duke is the Blue Devils. So Michigan was blue something. Anyway, so pennants. Those are pennants. And you go, yeah, I had a flag. It was a football flag, right? So here we go in the Avatamsaka Sutra, all these different kinds of flags. And you go, oh, yeah, no, we have them. We got them. You just forgot what you had on the wall of your bedroom as a kid growing up. Okay. So that's the way it's done. And if you don't have somebody who had a Detroit Tigers pennant on their wall, you might look at these words in the Avatamsaka and think, long ago and far away. And as soon as you go baseball pennant, you go, oh, yeah, my childhood. Yeah, I know exactly what one of those are. What about the other two? Okay. So that's the process of translation, is you go back and forth, talk about it, and suddenly it's like part of your life. It's not foreign. It's not ancient. I mean, it is ancient and from far away, but it's something that you can relate to totally relate to it. So, all right. Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva spoke. Notice, first words from him. Answered moon liberation and said, Huozi, disciple of the Buddha. That's a nice title for the Bodhisattva. He says, the Bodhisattva, the awakened being, Mahasattva, the big Bodhisattva, Maha, like Maharaja, the great king. The big Bodhisattva who has made perfect the Tao. We're pretty much not translating it as way anymore, we're translating it as path. Because to walk a way, you walk a path, means a road, right? A way, that is a cognate for path, for road, but way can mean like method, technique. That's the way we do it. It's the way I roll, right? So path is specific, it's concrete. So the path walked on the fourth ground, the way the Bodhisattva traveled. And the one who has made that perfect, who's done it just right, you've graduated now from the fourth ground. You want to enter the fifth ground called Nan Sheng Di, difficult conquest. This is, every one of these 10 grounds has a name. It's got a specific name. This one is called Nan Sheng Di. The Nan Sheng Di means hard to win, difficult conquest. What is it? It's the ground that has to do with samadhi. It's the fifth out of 6, right? 6 paramitas, 10 paramitas. The fifth one is Ding Polomi. Has to do with meditation. This is the dhyana paramita, Chan Bolomi. So it's tough, it's hard, and we'll find out why as we go. This is a difficult one to master. So it's called Nan Sheng Di. So if the Bodhisattva wants to Qu Ru, he wants to become, to Ru, here's a word, this is interesting. Take all you future translators, and I'm trying to recruit as I say this, anybody who's interested, we have work for you to do. How do you enter a ground? You don't. In English, to enter the ground makes no sense, right? Yao ru di wu nan sheng di. I want to enter the ground of difficult conquest. Makes no sense. So if you translate it word for word, you have people entering the ground. No, no picture. Nothing clicks when I think of entering the ground. You enter the ground when you're dead, right? You bury you. That's what it means. Somebody who wants to be buried in the fifth ground. No, I don't think so. So I want to be alive. So what does it mean? It is figurative language. To ru, you think to, what do we say, immerse in. Wow, that he got immersed in photography. He was just like reading all the blogs and in the darkroom. And he didn't go digital, he went to film. Or she decided she wanted to, like, you know, learn view cameras, go out to Yosemite and like pull the shutter away and expose the plate and slam the shutter. Old-fashioned. That's immersing in photography, right? So yeah, ru. But the word that we really use to make sense of this is master. Because the grounds are stages of learning. There's information, there's techniques, there's skills, there's points of view, there's new perspectives. All of that is in the grounds, right? So what do you do when you master photography? This person wants to become a mountain cyclist. So they study up what kind of mountain bike. And they go out and they put the rubber on the road and ride that bike. Get the right helmet, get the right shoes, right? Carry a pump, pack a sandwich, get some water, whew, over the trails. They master mountain biking. Somebody wants to master the skills of a registered nurse. They want to be an RN, right? So they do all the work required to be an RN. Somebody wants to be a librarian. What's the knowledge required of a librarian? What kind of skills? And they master it. And they get their degree in library science. So you ru, I think, works good for this. So, qu ru, someone who wants to master the fifth ground of difficult conquest, is way better than entering the ground. Okay? Because you enter the ground when you're a corpse. So, that's an example. And up until now, see the word ru, enter. 100 times out of 100. And all you have to do to challenge that is, excuse me, you're going to enter the ground? Makes no sense. Must be Buddhist language, right? You think, well, it's not mine. So you dismiss it. But we haven't done our job of translating if we let people enter the fifth ground, right? If you master the fifth ground, different. All right. Somebody who wants to master the fifth ground of difficult conquest should use 10 kinds of mindsets of equality and purity to approach and master that ground. So, 10 kinds of mindsets. We had a long, long conversation about the word shin here, probably 6 months ago, because it's a word that appears all the time in the sutras. And it's actually a picture of a heart. The word shin there, if you look at the first line, page 34, top line, the Chinese characters, go to the far right, there's a dot, a period. Then there's ru, and then go to the left, there's qu. Go to the left and there's shin. It's the third character from the right. That's actually an abstracted picture of a heart, the heart muscle, with the aorta and the vena cava and all those arteries and veins coming out of it. That's one of the pictograms. You don't have to go very far. You can see part of it's lost, but it was the heart, actually. So, understand that this is not what, it's not talking about the the pump in your chest. The heart, according to the Chinese, is the place where thinking happens. When they say think, they don't do this. They do this, right? Me? Or they point to their nose, talking to me, but when they say think, they don't go brain. The brain is not the place where the thinking happens, according to the ancient Chinese. So that's closer Because it's not talking about the heart muscle, it's talking about thinking, thoughts. And yet it's not simply thoughts, because it's, if we're trying to identify where thinking happens, and we're not so clear about that, even less are we clear about what thinking does. It creates these ideas, thoughts, intuitions, impulses, perspectives, attitudes, brain waves. What is Shin here? So we used mindset, because once we see what these are, mindset is the only English word that catches the whole package of what is a Shin, what's meant here. So for years we would just say heart, the Bodhi heart. And you got it, the Bodhisattva has to use 10 kinds of Bodhi heart, 10 kinds of hearts. You think, oh my God, his chest must be really huge. How does he do this? He has some medical freak, right? 10 kinds of hearts. Nah, there's trouble there. So 10 kinds of minds, same problem, right? So mind and heart doesn't work. Attitude is not it either. So we chewed it over, went round and round. We came up with a list of like 15 different words. I remember that night. We just kept stacking them up. People kept throwing out words that the Shin could mean, that the Bodhisattva uses in order to approach and master this, the fifth ground. And then it says, what are they? And we're going to get the names. Okay, what I think is interesting here is the takeaway point, which is, if you want to get the fifth ground, you have to look at what you're thinking. You have to look at the way your mind works. In other words, a big part of the 10 grounds is, you'd say, psychological. That's kind of the way we would talk about it. The 10 grounds have a lot to do with your state of mind in order to approach. Now, there's lots of things to learn and lots of practices, like meditation, for example. This is where meditation becomes really focused on. But your state of mind matters a lot if you want to be a Buddhist, the way the Avatamsaka talks about it. In fact, it's key. What's your state of mind? Well, I'm kind of depressed. Right. So, that's where we're looking. How about you? Well, I've just been like really scattered recently. Or I'm totally worried and anxious all the time because my company's cutting back. I'm waiting for my pink slip because my mom's been in the hospital a lot, because my kids, are about to get expelled because they're running with the wrong crowd. All these different things that can happen. My dog's been sick. All the things that make up our mindset. This is where the sutra lives. Okay? And I think it's important to say that Buddhist sutras are should be our refuge, our place where we go home, where we come back to when we've got troubles. It's not the case that the Buddha only likes us when everything is cool and mellow and we're like very copacetic and peaceful at heart. If we're cool and mellow and copacetic and peaceful, we don't need the sutra, right? The sutra is there when we're other than balanced and harmonious and at ease, right? The sutra is the doctor for when things aren't going well. I honestly, truly believe that's how Master Hua gave us these texts. How many times in a month can we say we are really peaceful, calm, and happy? Right? Oh yeah, I think there was like 3 weeks ago, I had about 5 minutes when I was like right where I was supposed to be, right? And then the rest of the world happened. Right? Many of us, now, if you're an old cultivator and you're meditating all the time and things are good, then don't move. I'm not trying to suggest there's something good or bad about that. But my experience is that the time when I am completely mellow and balanced and harmonious is the minority, is the fraction of my time compared to the rest of the time when it's like this. Either here or here or here or here. Most of our time is spent high or low or turbulent or looking backwards thinking, God, I remember when it was so good, what happened? Or, on the weekend it's going to be really good because I had no work. Weekend, don't have to go look at my boss in the eye. We're almost always looking back or looking forward, running from pain or pursuing pleasure. Rarely are we in that precious moment of stillness and harmony. Rarely, right? So if you don't know what I'm talking about, pay no attention to what the monk is saying. Keep your state of mind, keep your balance and harmony. Because if you don't know about it, chances are you're there. As soon as you know about it, you're on the way to high and low. Oh, I lost it. I was there, and something happened. It's like, it's your fault. You're the one, So that's what we do. We blame the world outside for what we thought we should have had, almost had, used to have, want to have, Our mindsets are just so fragile. Doesn't take much sometimes to send us off. One look from that person across the dinner table is all it takes to, Or other people blame the president. It's Obama's fault, right? Or it's them damn Russians, Or it's that new couple on the block who, Oh boy. I've been hearing so much. I won't go there tonight because we're webcasting. I'll leave that one alone. Saved, right? So it doesn't take much to turn that mindset into choppy water. I go up to City of 10,000 Buddhas once a week, cross that Richmond Bridge. Oh boy. Go from Contra Costa, that's Contra Costa, that's not Alameda. Contra Costa on this side, Marin on that side. And you go zooming across the bridge. And I don't get the full show because my Subaru doesn't ride as high as it might. It's kind of medium high. And I can't quite see over the guardrail. But I look over at the bay. The bay is there. And the bay is connected to the Pacific Ocean. The bay is connected to the planet. Sometimes that bay, especially in the morning, is like glass. It's amazing. Often at night, like 9 o'clock, if I'm coming back or midnight, the bay is just like, you can actually, it looks oily, There's this oily kind of thing. And it's like that. And then you come back 24 hours later, and it's like, and you think, I'm so glad I'm on this road and not down in there. Because that would be, you just... So, our minds are just like the bay. And same mind, same inner space, same senses, but today it's like, whoa. So, how interesting. The Bodhisattva works there on his or her mindset, which is to say, what's the weather inside today? And understand that I think for most of us, unless you're some monster meditator, most of the time it's like this or it's like this. It's more or less up or down. Why? Because we are living beings, right? And most of us are not at that state of samadhi yet. Heading for that state. So, if you are depressed, more often than not, don't think, oh, therefore the Buddha doesn't like me today. Or Guan Yin is like turned her back on me, right? Not the case. Not the way I understood it from Shifu. That is the time to go, okay, whoa, let's see now. What is the appropriate Dharma tool to work on my mindset today? How about Namo Guan Shi Yin Pu Sa? Right? How about that one? Okay, I'll try that. And you try it 5 minutes, try it 10 minutes, try it 15 minutes, and before you know it, it's like it kind of harmonizes with your steps as you're running around getting your briefcase ready, getting your backpack packed, and getting your lunch together. And by the time you get out to the bus or the car or the bike, it's like feeling kind of good. And by the time you arrive at school, workplace, garden, it's like, hey, I never saw the sun so bright. It's really nice weather this morning. Came through, and your mindset's different. Why? Because that was the right tool. That was the right one. Namo Guan Yin Pu Sa. Okay, so what did we teach the musicians? We did a lot with breathing last week in North Carolina. A lot of yogic breathing, back throat breathing, called Ujjayi breathing. It's part of yoga and Chan, and it's one of the things you teach yoga practitioners. And because you can do it anywhere. You don't have to cross your legs. You can do it backstage. You can do it in the studio. You can do it on the stage as you're about to perform. So we worked on that a lot, and we taught we taught metta, loving kindness, and all these different kinds of use of the mind, and the vibrations and contemplation of the four elements of the body and the air in between that we share. And so one of the women, the one who had the shaking hands, who was the music teacher, right? She did the student performance. She did one. And you can sign up in this camp to be one of the few students who go out in front of the whole camp and perform. And this is like a major concert venue. It's pretty nervous. And one of the actually the perfectionist, who's a world-class performer, said, so funny, he said, performed all over the world, houses large and small, Europe, U.S., Latin America. He says, something about the stage at Swannanoa is very high pressure. There's something about performing before all the musicians and the students that makes you, that's tough. So she went out, and her name was Heidi, and she said, she performed. She came back the next day, last day of class, and she said, Heidi, she said, I just wanted to say that last night, she said, I was backstage, I was fine. I was really well prepared, and I set my intention. I wanted to share this music. I wanted to give what I had. And I knew that it could happen, and I was kind of prepared, but I sat down, and I breathed, and I rooted my feet, and I visualized who I wanted to perform for, and I came out, and I sang, and my hands didn't shake. She said, everybody in class goes, oh, So these sutras are meant to be used, right? These are, Sherpa would say, these are mirrors. The sutra is a mirror to show us where we are. But what you notice is there's no judgment. It's not the case that the Buddha's going, oh, your mind is all depressed today, or your mind is all like agitated. I don't like you. Right? The Buddha doesn't do that. He doesn't say, you're no longer a Buddhist. You go home. Go away. Not. It's like, okay, take a look at the mind. How do you want it to be? Go to work. Here's a method. How do you want to deal with that today? Right? It's yours to deal with. Nobody tells you to be depressed. Nobody tells you to be so hyper. How you doing? I'm on your side. I'm just waiting for you to wake up, says the Buddha. And if you can stand that message, That's a huge gift. It's so much easier to say, God made me this way. God's in charge. It's His will. I let go and let God, right? All the things you can say if you are a theist, if you come from the 90% of the world's religions that have a creator. It's His fault. He made it that way. Nothing to do with me, right? So that's comforting if you like ignorance, right? Blame it on someone else. The Buddha said, you don't like it this way? Make it another way. It's up to you. It's up to us. One day we'll all wake up. Until then, we try to find the middle. Got too much? Pull it back. Not enough? Add some. Find the middle, calm down, give to others, serve living beings. Why? We're all trying to wake up together. We're all somewhere along the path towards awakening. So help each other along. Meanwhile, if you don't, they say, let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy, it goes better. You roll better that way. Meanwhile, teach the kids. Right? Kids are looking to the adults. How do I do it? How do I be an adult? They don't know. Monkey see, monkey do. So if you're an adult or pretending to be an adult or want to be an adult, understand that the kids are watching you. So it matters what we do. So something like that. That's, I think, how the sutras are meant to be used. They're not, the Buddha is not there to bounce us out of nirvana because we're screwed up today, we're messed up today, right? Not. He says, oh man, here, try this. This works. Just do it. Don't think so much. You know? Practice your breathing. Put your feet on the ground. Grow your roots and think about who's watching and help them along. All right. It is time to put a bookmark, page 34. I'm going to tell Jin Fan Shi to start at the first mindset of equality and purity, the Buddhas of the past, future, present, precepts, mind, doubts and regrets, and the other 10. That's how the Bodhisattva approaches to master the fifth Bodhisattva ground. Okay, boy, we've got some great sutra coming up. In this fifth ground, it's about meditation. And it's amazing because the Bodhisattva uses sound to enter the fifth ground. All right. This works, right? Okay, we'll use them both. This one's green, this one's red. Can we transfer merit in your songbook there in front of you? Okay, we're going to transfer the merit. So it's important that we use our minds to share the Dharma. Our minds go very wide, and as much stillness and purity as you have, that's how far your radio beacon goes, how far your signal goes, how many people it can touch. And we make a wish. We say, I send out this merit and virtue to whoever you wish, with the wish that, fill in the blank, whatever your wish is. And It's quite a wonderful practice, and everywhere I go, people get this right away. It's like we're waiting to be invited. We're waiting to be asked. It just makes so much sense to share goodness. You can do it during the day. You don't have to wait till the end of the lecture. You can transfer the merit of any cultivation you do anytime. So please do make that wish, and here we go. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. This guitar sounds so good. Goodness. So the story about Trail of Tears goes from this last week. I was in, as I mentioned, Swannanoa gathering in North Carolina, teaching, and there was this big fellow in my class, two of my classes. He was about 6'3" and he was about 6'3" around too. Yeah. Big fella, big guy. Had a ponytail and never talked. Didn't say a word in the class, but he was following everything. Had a big Martin guitar, a dreadnought, suitable guitar for a guy his size. And he had a funny kind of wry look always. He was listening. So after the third day, we're heading off to class, and he comes up and says, I want to ask you, he says, what are you? You some kind of holy man? I said, no, I'm a monk. You're a sage, huh? I said, no, I'm just a monk. He said, I think you're all right, he says. He says, there aren't enough people who live their faith. I figure you're living your faith. You're all right. So I said, oh, I appreciate that a lot. And I said, where are you from? He says, Native American. I said, all right. He said, what tribe? Cherokee, Georgia. I said, Cherokee and Georgia, aren't they from, in like Oklahoma? Cherokee, aren't they? He says, Trail of Tears, man. They beat us all the way out to Oklahoma. Trail of Tears is real, he said. So it's like, right, okay. So that was it for the day. Then I had an opportunity, which was one of the highlights for me of the week was this is actually the second day that we had that encounter, and then that night, I was invited to perform. The faculty does a concert the first night and the second night, and there are 17 guitarists who are, as someone said, there's no better guitar playing anywhere on the planet than the faculty of Guitar Week at Swannanoa Gathering. And one of the teachers had a death in the family and didn't make it. So Steve Boffman, my colleague, said to Al Petaway, the coordinator, he said, "Hey, ask Heng Sure." So Al came up and said, "There's a slot tonight." He says, "Would you want to do a set?" I'm going, you know, that in and out stuff, you know, as fast as it's like, because these are my guitar heroes. You know, these are people who live and breathe the instrument and have mastered. They have churu. They have really mastered the guitar. And so I said, "Oh, okay, sure, thanks." And so I thought, there's no way I can, you know, the Chinese phrase "pang man nong fu," in front of the great wood carver Pang, you don't pull out your axe, you know, because this is, you know, don't pretend, you know, to be, anyway. But I thought, I won't do that, but I can sing, and this is a chance to share Buddhist music. So I knew exactly what I wanted to sing. I wanted to sing "She Carries Me," and one of my songs, because we were talking about one of the intention is to, your intention has a lot to do with the singing that you do or the performing that you do. And if your intention is to I said during class that one of the things I'm aware of when I play is that I'm playing for generations of ancestors, starting with my dad. My dad started me off on music with his gift of a baritone ukulele when I was a teenager. And I often sing with my dad beside me, thinking this would be something I'd love to do, you know. So I thought, I'll just do Wish to Repay. Thank you to the universe, thank you to the earth and sky, which has a good, nice guitar part, you know. So I did it. I came out, I started the show. I was the first act. And people came up and said, "That was beautiful. That was great." And not the singing, not the playing, but the spirit of it. And I was able to bring up the level of the night, and because I had this sense of everybody there was a friend, and there's no doubt that I am not Al Petaway, you know, and I'm not Steve Boffman, and I'm not Tony McManus and these people, but I can share Buddhist music, and I wanted them to hear Buddhist songs. So, "She Carries Me," by the second line, everyone was singing along. By the second chorus, they had harmonies going. "She carries me, she carries me." The entire theater was singing loudly, going, "She carries me." They got it instantly. And this is a musical crowd, you know, and this is a beautiful hall, just like an instrument itself. The hall is like a tuned instrument. And the sound coming out. So the next day, after class, here comes Native American. His name is Blue. Blue comes up and he says, "I don't care what you say. You are a holy man," he says. He says, "It's not easy to get me to cry." He says, "Tears are going down my face last night." He says, "You got a beautiful spirit," he said. So I go, you know, all right. He and I became friends. So that was Blue. Anyway, I wanted to, the power of music is quite something, as we've been talking about. And we're going to get this. If, Alan, would you, or can we turn the lights off here? And we're going to drop the screen. And I want to share something quite wonderful here. Yuanlin has got me all set up here. Okay. There is a singer, songwriter, whom I admire greatly. He passed away, okay, line in, there we are. Let's see, we're not getting the audio. He passed away early. His name is Stan Rogers. And Stan Rogers is, here we go, right here. He came from the Maritimes in eastern Canada. Mirror the displays, there we go. He came from Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, those places in Canada where people live by the water. They live by their boats, their ships. And Stan Rogers is a great Canadian. Hey, hello. What aren't we getting here? You want to do it? Yeah. Right. So Stan Rogers was on a tour, and his plane crashed. Actually in Ohio, there we are, we're up. And he ran back in the plane to save someone and died. He was safe all by himself, and he ran back in and died. He wrote some of the songs that Eastern Canada identifies as their own, because his experience, his singing is about men and women who go to sea and make their living from boats. And now that life has all dried up and stopped, and everybody is going to Toronto, because there's no more fisheries, no more lobsters, no more clams, no more seafood. So he has the spirit of that. And he wrote a song called The Mary Ellen Carter. Mary Ellen Carter is the name of a ship, a boat. It's a ship, it's too big, it's a boat, it's a fishing boat. And it's, 30, 40 feet. And the Mary Ellen Carter sinks. It sinks at the harbor because the storm knocks it out. And the owners of the Mary Ellen Carter write it off to insurance. They don't want to try to bring it up. But the song is about people who love their boats, who know their boats saved their lives, and don't want the Mary Ellen Carter to lie down in the bottom, 60 feet down, and just turn to scale to become covered with barnacles. So they resolve to rise it up. They're going to raise up the Mary Ellen Carter. They're going to give it another life. And so they do. And the whole song is about what it's like to bring a boat up from the bottom of the harbor. And the chorus is, rise again, so your name won't be lost to the knowledge of men. And this song is, it's immortal in Canada. If you sing the first couple notes, everybody in this part of Canada starts to sing with you. And this is a story. So I want you to hear what about this song.
I was on a ship that were carrying coal from Norfolk, Virginia to a place near Fall River, Massachusetts. And we got caught in a very bad storm. It was an old ship. And we didn't have very much warning. About 2 o'clock in the morning, we saw the ship was starting to get in trouble and go down by the head. And we called the Coast Guard, and they were on the way out as quick as they could. And the ship cracked up and rolled over at 4:15 a.m. The water was very cold. It was 39 degrees. I had heard enough stories about a vortex and a whirlpool sucking people down when a ship sunk, so I started trying to swim away as fast as I could.
Check these seas, by the way. That's what it's like in a storm off the Atlantic. Oops, sorry. I outsmarted myself here. So his 4 a.m. his ship broke up. This is a true story, right?
An hour that I'd been doing this, that I ran across a swamped lifeboat, and I managed to get into it.
Okay, he was swimming for an hour in the seas. The water's like 30 degrees, right? 35 degrees. So he's swimming for an hour, and here comes a lifeboat from his ship that broke up and sank, and he's jumping into it.
I ran across a swamped lifeboat, and I managed to get into it. As the night wore on, and the seas kept smashing down on top of me, and I finally got the feeling I just couldn't make it anymore. And I was just about ready to give up when all of a sudden the words came into my mind: rise again, no matter what you've lost, be it a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter, rise again. And I just kept saying that over, and then the water cleared away, and I'd shout it out and sing it out, and another sea would come down on top of me. And I firmly believe that if it wasn't for that happening to me, I just was in a position where I couldn't have come through. And that song made the difference in me living through that night. There isn't any question in my mind whatsoever about it.
All right.
She went down last October in a pouring driving rain.
All right. This is, now, the reason why I'm showing you this is the power of music, what it can do. So I'm going to show you the words. This is Stan Rogers, the writer and the singer who then saved someone, from a plane and died as a result. Look at this. Here's the lyrics. And I want you to see the song and then hear Stan Rogers sing it. She went down last October in a pouring driving rain. The skipper, he'd been drinking. The mate, he felt no pain. In other words, the crew was drunk. Too close to 3 Mile Rock, she was dealt her mortal blow, and the Mary Ellen Carter settled low. The ship sank. There was just us 5 aboard her when she finally was awash. We worked like hell to save her, all heedless of the cost. And the groans she gave as she went down, it caused us to proclaim the Mary Ellen Carter would rise again. Well, the owners wrote her off. Not a nickel would they spend. She gave 20 years of service, boys, then met her sorry end. But insurance paid the loss to them. They let her rest below. They laughed at us and said we had to go. But we talked of her all winter, some days around the clock. She's worth $250,000 afloat and at the dock. And with every jar that hit the bar, we swore we would remain and make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Here's the chorus. Rise again, that her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her to the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. All spring now we've been with her on a barge lent by a friend. 3 dives a day in a hard hat suit, and twice I've had the bends. Thank God it's only 60 feet and the currents here are slow, or I'd never have the strength to go below. But we patched her rents, stopped her vents, dogged hatch and porthole down, put cables to her fore and aft, and birdied her around. Tomorrow noon we hit the air, and then take up the strain, and watch the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, that her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her to the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. For we couldn't leave her there, you see, to crumble into scale. She saved our lives so many times, living through the gale. And the laughing drunken rats who left her to a sorry grave, they won't be laughing in another day. And you, to whom adversity has dealt the final blow, with smiling bastards lying to you everywhere you go, Turn to, put out all your strength of arm and heart and brain, and like the Mary Ellen Carter, rise again. Rise again, though your heart it be broken and life about to end. No matter what you lost, be it a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter, rise again. This is a song of human spirit, right? This is so powerful. So here's the sailor who's telling you the story of how singing this song in a lifeboat in freezing high seas, this gave him the courage to continue. The power of music. So here's Stan Rogers. Listen. Come on, Stan. All right. What happened to our sound there? Can you boost it up a bit more?
She went down last October in a pouring driving rain. The skipper he'd been drinking and the lady felt no pain.
That's it.
Too close to 3 Mile Rock and she was dealt her mortal blow. And the Mary Ellen Carter settled low. There was just us 5 aboard her when she finally was awash. We'd worked like hell to save her, all heedless of the cost. And the groan she gave as she went down, it caused us to proclaim that the Mary Ellen Carter would rise again. Well, the owners wrote her off, not a nickel would they spend. She gave 20 years of service, boys, that met her sorry end. But insurance paid the loss to us, so let her rest below. Then they laughed at us and said we had to go. We talked of her all winter, some days around the clock, for she's worth $250,000 afloat and at the dock. And with every jar that hit the bar, we swore we would remain and make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Here we go. Rise again, rise again. That her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her till the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. All spring now we've been with her on a barge lent by a friend. 3 dives a day in a hard hat suit and twice I've had the bends. Thank God it's only 60 feet and the currents here are slow, for I'd never have the strength to go below. We patched her ends, stopped her bends, dog patch and put all down. Put cables to her fore and aft and girded her around. Tomorrow noon we'll hit the air and then take up the strain and make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Come on now! Rise again, rise again. Let her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her till the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again.
Raucous Canadian crowd out there.
For we couldn't leave her there, you see, to crumble into scale. She'd saved our lives so many times, living through the gales. And the laughing drunken rats who left her to a sorry grave, they won't be laughing in another day. And you to whom adversity has dealt the final blow, with smiling bastards lying to you everywhere you go, turn to and put out all your strength of arm and heart and brain, and like the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, rise again. Though your heart it be broken and life about to end, no matter what you've lost, be in a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, rise again. Though your heart it be broken and life about to end, no matter what you've lost, be in a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter rise again.
he is. That's his name, Stan Rogers. And he should not be forgotten.
Jim Morrison. Garnet Rogers.
That's his brother, Garnet. All right.
Stan Rogers, thank you.
Okay, just to say,
Right.
music has a power. And yeah, there we go. All right, here's something to share with everybody. This is our ordination group from yesterday. These are the 3 masters and 7 certifiers who gave the precepts to all the new monks and nuns, 28 new monks and nuns, new bhikshus and bhikshunis. This is Bhante Shilavimala, who has been a monk since age 10 from Sri Lanka. He's now been in robes 47 years, 10 years longer than I have. Ajahn Pasano is 2 years longer than I. It's myself. This is Bhante Santarakshita, who's 1 year younger than I am in robes. Here's Heng Shan. Heng Shan was one of the 3 masters, did a great job. Here's Bhante Nyaniko and Karuna Dhammo, Dharma Master Lu, Dharma Master Lai, Bhikshu Jyoti Palo. So that's our group. And here is, oh, that's not it. This is another story. This is interesting. Anybody recognize her? That's Nipun's mom. Okay, Nipun's mom, Nipun Metta. These are her 5 sisters. This is her mom. This is Nipun's grandmother. This elderly spiritual being put out 6 daughters, and they all got back together last week to celebrate mom. So how about that? Look at the light in this group. And here is their source. Here is their mom. What she taught them all was, whenever there's a holy man, a spiritual teacher, you have to go make offerings. So all these daughters, whenever there was a teacher around, they would follow mom to make offerings. And now Nipun and Guri make offerings to us because they saw their mom do that. So that's another story. Okay, what I wanted to share with you is this one. Here we are. These are the new monks and nuns, 13th ordination. These are the new ones in the back. Here are the new bhikshus, and the new bhikshunis are behind them. You see Qinwei, his name is Jin Chuan, Chuan Fa de Chuan. Here is Jin He, Guo Shun Shi. That's the group. See all the nuns, 16 of them. Very bright, capable new group of bhikshus and bhikshunis. So there we are. Now, anybody have any questions or? Yes. Okay. Yeah. How about that? Well, I actually...
I know that Master Trungpa was very open-minded on ordination, but I didn't know that you actually did ordination together. That's new.
You obviously have not been to Dharma Forest today. If you go to the Dharma Forest, you will see, yesterday, August 9th, 28 men and women received the complete precepts in the Mahayana tradition and became fully ordained bhikshus, monks, and bhikshunis, nuns. It was a fine ceremony and a fine day in the Dharma realm. This was the 13th such ceremony since our founder, the late Chan Master Hsuan-Hua, began ordaining men and women in this country. 3 masters and 7 certifiers have to assemble to examine and verify the qualifications of the candidates. Yesterday's assembly of distinguished Sangha members from both the Mahayana and Theravada tradition included the following venerable monks, and there's the list. Inviting senior monks from both Mahayana and Theravada traditions, an historical precedent in the West, was a hallmark of Master Xuanhua's ordination procedures. He made a point of it, bringing the Mahayana and Theravada back together. So look at the colors of the robes, huh?
I see that happening in women ordination, Theravada ordination. That,
We have always, and Bhante Shifu used to always invite Bhante Shila Vimala, and one year he actually had Ajahn Sumedho be the preceptor, the central monk. So that's the spirit. That's what's going to bring Buddhism to the West, is that harmony. So glad you asked that question. Yep. There was one other. Let's see here. Not that. Let's see here. Did it go to pictures? No. I'm looking for two photos here. Not there. Just a second. We'll take 1 second and then we'll be done. All right. Things we need to know. So you saw that the precepts were transmitted yesterday to the monks and nuns. Monday we do the Bodhisattva precepts, and then Monday night we have here we are. Monday night we have the introduction to the 42 Hands and Eyes, which is coming up. Well, I wanted to show you these. Here's, let's see, maybe I can just drag it over. Yes, there we are. Okay. These are two photos from the performance that I was telling you about. After singing She Carries Me and Wish to Repay, the local photographer got the... I'm playing my Alberico guitar, Mary Rose, here. There we are. I'm explaining to everybody how to sing She Carries Me. So, all right. So that's all for the screen here. And Yunin, if you could run it up, because I want people to pay attention to my voice. Do you have the... Yeah, great. Okay, now, many folks have gathered from all directions to go to the city of 10,000 Buddhas for the 42 Hands and Eyes transmission and for the events that are happening at CTDB. And so please travel safely up to the city, and it's going to be quite a scene. And we will be giving you further instructions when you get there, and it's going to be quite auspicious and quite wonderful. So we're looking forward to that. My time is going to be quite occupied, but if people have come from a distance and want to say hi, flag me down somewhere. I'll be walking back and forth, and so pull my car over and say, "Stop! Hi!" That's probably the only way you'll get a chance, because I'm going to be pulled in every direction for the next 3 or 4 days. But there should be time, and look forward to getting a chance to talk with everybody and hearing the news. So, are there any questions about any of that, about going up to the CTB? Kevin? Oh, I'll have to tell you later. It's already 9:35. There's pages of them. So, yeah. Other questions? Yes, Val. Okay. On Monday, right? Monday. Good. Um, for that's you know why they say that? We're doing something new this time, which is the new monks and nuns, the 28 of them. We're going to, in accord with Master Hua's first legacy, which is setting up the Sangha, Jianli Sangtuan, we're going to welcome them. We're going to do it at noon, and then we're going to have a smaller gathering in the Daoyuan Hall, I think, or either that or the guest building, just to acknowledge that these people have spent, in some cases, 5 years getting ready for this, preparing, some 2 years, some 3 years. And it's a big deal. It's important for them. You think of Jin Guangshi from Minnesota. He's now a bhikshu. This old gentleman, went through so much trouble with his legs going bad and people saying, "You're too old, you can't do this. What do you think you're doing?" And he just slowly, one step at a time, kept going forward. Now you should see him. You know what his name is? Jin Fo, Buddha, right? He got that. So don't ask me who gave him that name. I wouldn't have given him, but he got that, and he's like, he's bright. He's just radiant, Guang, Jin Guang. So, like him, there are all these stories. And the nuns, what incredible things they overcame to become bhikshunis at City of 10,000 Buddhas. So there they are. So, Valerie, to answer your question, that was said because there's going to be hundreds of people milling around at CTDB without much to do on Monday, looking for something to do, who would love to crash the party and go in and and they don't have to be there. It's people who know these friends who are, for whom it means something to say congratulations, I'm so glad you did it. And family and friends. So that would be you, family and friends. So if you got that invite, you should go. And don't drag along cousins and uncles and aunts and, well-wishers and people who are just there will be, this is an event for the people who care, who really know them and care. So, that was a good question. All right? And I'm going to Toledo next Friday. I'm going on Friday to see my mom for her 90th birthday. And it's not the actual day, it's December 2nd, but she didn't want people to come to Toledo in the snow and the ice of December. So she said, "It's my birthday, I can have it any day I want," she said. So it's going to be this weekend coming up. So I'll be leaving jumping on a plane Friday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. in Oakland, going to visit Mom in Toledo. And I'll be back, I think, Tuesday the following. So I'm only there for 3 or 4 days. And I'll be here for lecture on Saturday. Then we all go off to Vancouver for the Gold Buddha dedication, which is happening. And then I'm in China, going to China for September. So I won't see you for a few of the weeks in September, but we'll be in touch anyway. But this is one of those chances to go to China. And if you think, gee, I wish I could go with the Dharma Master of China, you don't. You don't want to go. The schedule is punishing brutal. It's just so intense, on a vehicle every night, heading somewhere else. We're nowhere longer than 2 nights, and it's going to be, we're going to 6 provinces and cities, going to Beijing and to the Renmin Daxue to lecture and all over. And China is not a very comfortable place to be these days. You have to have a mask, and you have to, because the air is so bad. The food is not reliable. You don't know what you're eating, and it's not designed for people anymore. It's designed for money. And like the pharaohs, you can be buried with your money. So, anyway, so don't think, gee, Pasher must be having all the fun in China. You don't want what we're going through. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. So, besides, it's all in Chinese, and my Chinese is terrible. So, you can hear me in English, and at least that makes sense. So, All right, that's the news. And shall we bow to the Buddhas and see you all next week for Jinfan Shi, and then I'll be back the following week.